welcome to another episode of Two Strike Noise, your weekly baseball history podcast. It's the same crew, same lineup as always. I am one of your co-hosts, Jeff. Joining me from a remote location is my co-host, Mark A. Johnston. Mark, welcome. How you doing?
Same crew, but I'm dressed rather differently this week. I'm in my chauffeur outfit, and I don't even know why.
Especially since you cannot drive. It's kind of odd that you would do something like that. I am completely confused, though. I mean, if that isn't confusing enough, I have been thinking that next week is Ricky Henderson's birthday for like the last 5 days. So I'm a bit confused as well.
That's a big day.
That is. It's a big day. The whole world, well, most of the world celebrates it. We'll put it that way.
As they should.
Yes. All right, let's get into it. We've got some fun things to talk about in the main part of the show. We're going to get into contracts, which, I mean, contract law is one of my favorite things to discuss. So we're going to discuss that. We're also going to discuss something we've discussed in the past, but we're going to talk about something else. We're going to talk about Merkle's boner, but we're going to talk about the actual game that they had to replay because of it, which we've never really gone in depth about. We've just talked about Fred Merkle and his mistake. But we'll talk about the actual replay of that game a little bit later. But first, Mark, we never want to go into this show cold. We are getting older, so we need even longer to kind of stretch out, shake the cold out of our bones. So let's start off with a little BP first.
All right, let's do it.
All right. First of all, way back when, you talked about an episode of The Twilight Zone called The Mighty Casey, which included a robot pitcher. And you talked about it, then we talked about it when we talked about the Wrigley Field that was in Los Angeles, because that's where they shot it. I found this interesting bit on social media the last week. So remember the Simpsons episode, Homer at the Bat? You got Griffey, Mattingly, Daryl Strawberry, all these ringers. Well, Mr. Burns in that episode is wearing a uniform with the name Zephyrs on the front of it. You remember that at all?
I do.
Well, do you remember what the name of the team that the Mighty Casey, the robotic pitcher, played for?
Was it the New Orleans Zephyrs by chance?
It was the Hoboken Zephyrs.
Okay.
Yeah, the New Orleans Zephyrs was a real
city.
Yeah, the New Orleans Zephyrs was a real team. They're now the Baby Cakes. But
which is fantastic.
I 100% would be willing to bet that this was a nod to the Mighty Casey when they put Mr. Burns in the Zephyrs uniform. I'll bet it was a Hoboken Zephyrs jersey.
That's good.
All right. Next. So today, this show is dropping on December 15th. Something in baseball history actually happened today, which is, I mean, things happen every day, but I mean, this is kind of unique. Today, in 1896, so you were just repeating the fifth grade for the first time in 1896.
Sure.
The first pitching machine was created by a Princeton professor. His name was Charles E. Hinton. And he demonstrated it in the the Princeton University gymnasium. I don't want to hear it from all our Harvard grads that are listening.
Do you think anybody from Harvard is listening to our show?
I assumed everyone from Harvard listens to our show. Maybe that's on me. But he was a mathematics instructor, and he created this device that resembled a rifle, which shoots the ball towards wherever you aim it. There's some drawings, I'll link it in the show notes, of it actually shows somebody holding this thing like it's a rifle and aiming it at a batter. But it was modeled after a rifle, but nobody actually held it when you wanted it to fire. It was actually triggered by the batter, who would step on a plate that was connected via wires to this thing. So he set it up for an exhibition game at one point between the Newark Field Club and the Orange YMCA. I don't know the Orange YMCA. Don't know if they were rivals with like the Green YMCA or what, but it was an exhibition game. It took him over an hour and a half to set this thing up, first of all. So they started a little late. Then there was a, quote, notable delay between being able to fire it. So it would blast a pitch in there, and then it would take like 5 to 10 minutes to reload it for the next pitch. Very time efficient. Batters on both sides said they were a bit cautious stepping on a plate that fired a baseball powered by gunpowder towards them. I can see why. Remember, this is in the 1800s too, so...
Right. Well, we didn't even wear helmets back then, so, it's just like step in and, take one for the team if you have to.
Get on base any way you can. Well, it was said that the device did work. It was deemed impractical for use. So that is why that is not what a pitching machine is these days.
Yes.
I wanted to talk about something. You disparaged grapefruit last week.
I did.
Yeah. So both Omar Vizquel and grapefruit, we have now learned you are not impressed with either. But I wanted to talk about the Grapefruit League real quick. So we know that the Cactus League is in Arizona and the Grapefruit League is in Florida for spring training. And I think it's pretty obvious why they are referred to as the Grapefruit and the Cactus League. I would like to offer a different theory as to how the Grapefruit League got its name. Let's head back to the spring of 1915. You were just repeating the 8th grade for the 3rd time at this point.
Yes, my principal said, Mark, do you want to repeat the 8th grade? And I said, I don't know if I could do it exactly, but I will give it my best shot. Sorry, go on.
So spring 1915, Dodgers manager Wilbert Robinson and then outfielder Casey Stengel had an idea. At this point, there was a female pioneer in aviation named Ruth Law, who had been dropping golf balls from a plane onto a golf course as a stunt in Florida. So these guys thought, hey, she should drop a baseball, and the manager, Wilbert Robinson, he can catch it out of this plane as a stunt. So one version of the story says that Stengel arranged to switch out the baseball for a grapefruit to prank his manager. Law herself said that it was not until she was in the air that she realized she had no baseball on the plane, only a grapefruit that she was going to eat for lunch. Now, first of all, is she in the air so long that she's like, I've got to take my lunch up here? And then all it is a grapefruit? Like, I'm not buying that.
Yeah, what? Just skip lunch, for goodness sakes, if you're going to just eat a grapefruit.
But also, if you're going up in this plane and it's part of a stunt, you're like, all right, we're going to drop a baseball. And then you get up there and you're like, who brought the baseball? I thought you brought the baseball. No.
Wow.
This all smells of an old story from 1915, but it's good and it gets better. Mm-hmm. So regardless, she's up there in the air. The Dodgers and assorted media are down. I'm assuming this was in Vero Beach. It's in Florida. She drops the grapefruit. Robinson, still thinking it's a baseball, is getting under it. This has got to be hard, though, because it's got to be moving really fast. And I don't know how high up she was, but I'm assuming that this thing's got some speed behind it. So he gets under it and catches it, which is a feat in itself. But when he catches it in his glove, it explodes. Just like Casey Stengel says he wanted to have happen, which is why he wanted a grapefruit. Plus, a grapefruit's a lot bigger than a baseball, too. So
it's easier to see.
Yeah. I'm wondering if he panicked as it got closer. He's like, that thing's big. Wait, what? But he catches it. It explodes. He's covered in grapefruit juice and pulp. And he's a bit traumatized. And he definitely was stunned. And he looks all over at this juice and this pulp, and he thinks it's blood, and he starts yelling, help, I'm dying, help, running around. Needless to say, the team there watching this thought it was hilarious. Robinson, after a bit of time and cleaning up, realized that it was a joke, and he found the humor in it as well. But that's a dangerous joke to play.
I don't, that's pretty dangerous. One, just throwing anything out of an airplane, and two, telling a guy to stand underneath it. That takes some guts.
I mean,
I guess nobody decided to research the laws of physics. I don't know.
I mean, that thing, if they would have hit him in the head, probably would have concussed him at least. And this was kind of around the same time. Remember, we talked about Gabby Hartnett, the catcher for the Cardinals. He caught a ball that was dropped out of the top of the Washington Monument, which was dangerous. Wow. So I couldn't find out how high or low this plane was flying, but still, it's going at a good clip, and they're dropping a big thing out of it. Yeah, I thought that was that was stupid, but that was interesting. So
that's the worst thing to happen like that since WKRP threw those turkeys out of there.
I swear to God, I thought turkeys could fly. Wow. If you don't understand that, you're probably under 40, but please go research it. It's all over Twitter, usually every Thanksgiving, but
it's pretty funny.
Herb Tarlick and Les Nessman, just two of the great characters of sitcoms. All right. I'm not going to take us to kangaroo court, but I do have our buddy Christopher Cook did send me a note. We were talking last week. I was mentioning some of the odd team names from the Virginia League, and I mentioned the Lynchburg Shoemakers. And both you and I both made a comment about, you made Lynchburg Lemonade and I talked about Jack Daniels. Well, that's Lynchburg, Tennessee, apparently, not Lynchburg, Virginia. So we were a state or two off, but that is alcohol related more than baseball related. So I'm not going to fine us.
That's a good point. I agree 100%. No fine.
But thank you, Chris, for writing in and telling us about that. Let's see. We got a couple of answers. I am not sure if I remember. I'm looking through our feed here, and I'm not sure if anybody actually got our trivia question right last week, which I think you actually said you know the answer. So let's ask the question one more time, and then we'll see if you do indeed have the answer right. We talked about Bert Blyleven and his 1986 season where he gave up 722 home runs. My question was, who hit the most home runs off of Bert Blyleven in 1986? And Mark, who do you think that was?
I said I knew the answer because, man, that must have been a week ago. I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, no.
Well, let's narrow it down. American League.
You were very assured when you said because I asked you and you said, yeah, well, I know the answer. And now it's nothing. Wow. I
do not believe you will find any evidence that I said I knew the answer.
Oh, you can. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and say I'm going to insert the clip right here. Who hit the most home runs off of Bert Blyleven in 1986? Do you have any clues?
Yeah, I know the answer, but I don't want to say it. Okay, if I was so positive, it had to have been. No, I don't have any idea. I can tell you it wasn't Kirby Puckett.
No, it was not Kirby Puckett or Ken Herbeck or anybody else that was teammates with Bert Blyleven that year. You are correct. Right. It was Ron, Ma, and Pa Kittle.
No kidding.
Yeah,
no, I wouldn't have got that one.
Chicago White Sox. He hit 4 off of Bert Blyleven that year.
Ow.
They were all within 2 starts. They finished up a series and then they started another series on July 18th and then July 23rd. He had 2 home runs in both of those games against Bert Blyleven.
We got to have him on the show so we can ask him about that.
Oh, well, he was on the Turn a Pair podcast with Chris. Had a very disparaging story about Ricky Henderson. So I would love to have him on so that we can talk about it. Ron Kittle.
Well, we brought up to Ralph Terry. You know.
So you gave up probably the most famous walk-off home run in baseball history.
And you brought up Rocky Colavito, and he just went,
Yeah. Well, and remember, I also brought up the Joe Carter walk-off to Reggie Jefferson. That didn't go over so well either. Yeah. So I have no problem bringing these things up.
I noticed.
Yeah. So let's move on. I got another question for you. I like this question, and this will take some research if you're going to do it. Which jersey number has been worn by the most rookies of the year?
Wow.
So, of course,
Okay.
rookie of the year only goes back, I think, till the 60s or somewhere around that. So you're not going back to the 1860s. But the jersey number most often worn by the player who has been awarded the rookie of the year. So you've got 101 possible answers.
That's right.
So
I'm working on it already.
I'm going to get 101 DMs from one person, I guarantee you. All right, so we will give you the answer to that question next week. And Mark, let us now get right into it.
Let's do it.
I'm going to have you go first.
Okay.
All right, so Mark, as I said at the beginning of the show, contract law is something that draws the listeners in. It grabs them by the collar, and it just they're into it. So let's talk some baseball contracts.
Yeah, I started thinking about the ginormous contracts we see nowadays, and I started thinking, when was the first contract that was like this, or when was the first $10 million contract, and when was the first contract with a no trade clause, and so on. So I started doing a little bit of research, and I found out that not all of baseball history agrees on who signed the first baseball contract. Some instances, it's a guy named John J. Ryan and George Bird, William Ballard Osborne. Those are the three, and they all played for in Rockford. They played for the Forest City Baseball Club.
Not the Rockford Peaches.
No. That was in 1871. A little more research found at the Hall of Fame, there is a contract between the New Chicagos and Levi Meyer. I don't know how, it's Meyerle. It's like Meyer, but they threw an LE on the end just to confuse you. So Levi Meyerle, there, formerly of the Athletic Club of Philadelphia, they agreed on a 1 year from February 15th, 1870 through February 14th, 1871. Player would receive $125 a month for a total of $1,500. In my estimation, that was the first real baseball contract right there. So Levi Impronounceable Meyerle.
That was his nickname, right?
Yeah, that's right. The Unpronounceable. It was a pretty cool nickname. You'll find out a lot of times that people will bring up Cap Anson's contract from 1971. It was and I looked it up, and it's very interesting. It was Cap Anson was one of the first people to sign a big contract, and I started looking through the contract, and it had some interesting portions in it. I thought I'd read a few to you. Cap Anson's 1871 contract, the Forest City Baseball Club of Rockford, Illinois, now the New Chicagos. He agreed to abstain from the use of alcoholic liquors unless medically prescribed, and to conduct himself both off and on the ball ground in all things like a gentleman. So
we need those today again.
Yes. And here's another part: to report promptly for duty at the grounds of the club for all games and for practice at the hours designated there by the officers of the club, and upon the grounds to abstain from profane language, scuffling, and light conduct, and to discourage the same in others. Got that?
Be on time.
Be cursing people on
Be on time.
Yeah, be on
behave. Time. Don't drink.
And don't swear. All right. And you in the agreement, it says you agree to practice at least 2.5 hours each day on every day deemed for practice. Yeah. And at practice, he will use his best endeavors to perfect himself in play, always bearing in mind that the object in view in every game is to win. There you go. That was, I thought that was pretty funny.
I would love to see some owner try and sneak that into a contract today and just see what a player would say.
Right. I found it was funny because I wasn't going to talk about it, that particular contract, but then I saw all these funny little tidbits in it, and I thought, I got to share that one. That's pretty funny. Now we can do this. I'm going to do this kind of in because you're always trivia testing me. I'm going to throw these out there at you and see if you can get close. All right. We're going to go over the milestones in as far as salary goes. All right. So the first player to make $10,000 a year, who do you think it was?
10,000. That wasn't the Mechanical Man, was it?
No.
Charlie Garrett.
You've heard of him?
I don't know who.
Ty Cobb.
Nope.
Guy named Ty Cobb. Tyrus Raymond Cobb.
Maybe we should talk about him sometime.
Tyrus Raymond was his name. I don't know if he went by Ty or Ray or
Ray.
But all right, so Ty Cobb, of course, makes sense, right? So we're going to go into the early 20s. $50,000 contract for
Charlie Gehringer. That's just going to be my answer every time.
No,
Babe
no,
Ruth.
no. It was Babe Ruth. Very good. Babe Ruth signed with the Yankees in 1922 to play for $50,000. And the first $100,000 contract went to a guy by the name of the Hebrew Hammer.
Greenberg. Hank Greenberg.
Hank Greenberg. Very good. He was paid $100,000 a year starting in January 1947. So there was your first six-figure contract. Now your first seven-figure contract, November 1979, $1 million a year. Two?
Was it Nolan Ryan?
Bingo, you got it. Nolan Ryan, $1 million a year.
I had to pull that one out.
Yeah.
I think I know who the first $3 million contract was.
Okay, and we'll go straight to that. Who was the first $3 million contract?
Wasn't it Kirby?
You got it, Kirby Puckett. November 1989 with the Twins.
Ricky was the second.
Ah, see?
That's how I know that.
You knew about. Yeah. Now we're going to go to seven-figure contract. Who got the first seven-figure contract?
Was it A-Rod?
Not quite his time yet.
So before A-Rod, I don't think it was Griffey.
Yes. Nope.
I don't know. Tell me.
Mr. Albert Bell.
Oh, boy.
Signed an $11 million a year contract with the White Sox. And December 2000, the first $20 million a year contract. Any idea?
In 2000, I'm going to say A-Rod again.
He ended up being second. First to the table was just Manny being Manny, signing a $20 million contract. A-Rod did sign afterwards, but for $21 million. So he got a little bit more. He squeezed out of him. And the contract we're all looking at as the most impressive contract nowadays, a $30 million man, Mr. Mike Trout, making $34 million a year.
Jeez. I mean, if you're gonna say somebody's worth it, who do you think is more worth it? Trout for that amount, or A-Rod for that amount? You know, or Bell or Manny back at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, Trout is the more well-rounded player for sure.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And all that Subway money that Trout's making too. Don't forget that.
That's right. All he's got to do is eat Subways and say he likes them. Jeez. Okay, so a few more things. You've seen some provisos and addendums and little things in contracts that people throw in, or they ask for something special, like we talked about Charlie Kerfeld, and how in his contract he specified he wanted 37 boxes of lime green Jell-O.
Yeah. And how who was it? Turk Wendell wanted to play for free one year.
Yes, that's right. And so I found a few weird little throw-ins on people's contracts that you might find amusing. A.J. Burnett, when he signed with Toronto in 2005, he required that his wife receive 8 round-trip limo rides from his home in Maryland to Toronto each season.
Oh my God! How long is a drive from Toronto to Maryland?
Well, I took the incentive and looked it up.
Oh,
it's
good.
about 9
I was just
hours.
about to do it. All right, hit me up.
9-hour ride 8 times a season. Man, taking care of a wife
fly?
right there. I don't know. I didn't look that much up, but
Jeez, she's like channeling John Madden. Sorry, football reference.
Pretty impressive.
Well, now,
we don't do that here.
Didn't Roberto Alomar, didn't he in his contract with the Blue Jays, didn't he get a room in the Sky Dome Hotel?
I think so, yeah. I don't have that on me specifically, but I remember that. Dice K, he had interesting things in his contract. He had like excessive clauses for housing allowances and a personal massage therapist. And contractually, Dice K was guaranteed the number 18 in his contract. So he didn't have to go steal it from somebody else, ask for it, or offer 2 cases of beer. He just had it in his contract.
Well, and remember, we talked about that 18 in Japanese baseball is the number for a starting pitcher. That's right. That's what you want to be. So that's
right.
Very interesting.
He had that put in contractually. Kevin Brown of the Los Angeles Dodgers signed a 7-year, $105 million deal for the 1999 season. And in this deal, it was guaranteed 12, count them 12, 12 round trip private jet trips from LA to his hometown in Macon, Georgia for his family.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, I'm fairly positive in all of Ichiro's contracts, he had first class round trip tickets to and from Seattle and Tokyo for his wife.
Ah, yes. There you go. Kurt Schilling. He had rewards for maintaining his weight. Gives him $1 million for appearing on any voter's 3-man Cy Young ballot. So all he had to do was appear on a ballot, and he got an extra $1 million.
Jeez.
You just go to somebody who's voting and go, "Hey, I got $10,000 if you vote for me." Although baseball doesn't take kindly to gambling, so
well, Kurt Schilling is really good at losing other people's money, though. So I'm looking at you, state of Rhode Island or wherever he bilked all those millions out of.
Ichiro signed a contract extension that stipulated that he gets an interpreter, the plane tickets that you were speaking of, and the club has to give him a Jeep or a Mercedes SUV. So
I guess Japanese one of those is cheaper than the other.
Carlos Beltran, 7-year, $119 million deal in 2005. He in his contract, he asked for a conditioned ocular enhancer.
Glasses?
Which is a thing that it throws. Yeah, kind of. No, it's like a pitching machine, but it throws numbered colored tennis balls over 150 miles an hour. So it can help you pick up, the speed of a pitch ball and so on, help you look at rotation, all that stuff. But he couldn't come up with one. So he had to put into his contract that he got one.
His search on Amazon didn't come up with anything, so he's like, I'm gonna make some intern at the Mets do it. Or was that with the Mets, or was that when he signed with the Astros?
That was the Mets.
The Mets, yeah. Make somebody at Shea Stadium look it up.
Save the best till last, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Houston Astros, 2005. Roy Oswalt. So it was a National League Championship Series, and Astros owner Drayton McClain said that to Oswalt, if they win, he's specifically going to get him his life's dream, which is a bulldozer. So Oswalt wanted a bulldozer. They agreed to it in the contract. He kicked the Cardinals' rear ends, and they went to the World Series. And Mr. McClain came through with a Caterpillar D6N XL. I looked it up. That's not some minor little Caterpillar bulldozer. He actually got a real nice bulldozer out of the deal.
Well, could he not? I'm looking at large Cat brand bulldozer prices right now in 2020. The base price is $350,000. You mean to tell me Roy Oswalt couldn't come up with that kind of cash with what he was making? Maybe
he felt that if he spent the family's money, his wife would think it was a bit too whimsical. But if someone hands him a bulldozer, hey, honey, look what I drove home,
He should just put that in his contract to just give it to him. No need to win anything. Just, I also want a bulldozer.
Exactly. So those are the weird little provisos out of contracts, and the contract who got what at what time and breaking the milestones and all that stuff. I thought you'd enjoy that.
That was fun. No, I did enjoy that. All right. So are you ready to talk about Merkle's mistake?
Let's do it. Stinking Merkle.
We beat around the bush last time and we came up with a better name for it. But, we're just going to play it down. We're going to use the name, but we're going to use it sparingly because that's what everybody knows it as. Of course, we're talking about Merkle's boner. Fred Merkle committed a bad mistake that cost his team. But if you want to hear all about this mistake, please go back. It was one of our really kind of early episodes, and I forgot to go back and look and see what episode exactly. I'll put a link in the show notes, though, but it's back there. We're on show number 96 right now, and I'm thinking that was like in the 10s. So you got to go back a ways. But what happened is that game ended up having to be replayed. They had to replay it because the Cubs and the Giants were in a battle with the Pirates and a whole bunch of that kind of stuff that I'm going to hit up here. So let's talk about this replay of the Merkle's mistake game.
All right.
Merkle was only 19 years old when he committed the mistake. The unforgivable sin is what I wrote down. He had only played in 50 games in the big leagues before that game. So I guess I never thought that he was that young. I thought he had had more time in the big leagues, but he makes this mistake, and obviously it screwed him up for life. We talked about mentally.
Yeah.
Quickly to review the game was originally played on September 23rd, 1908. The Giants and the Cubs were battling each other as well as the Pirates to see who would represent the National League in what would be the 5th World Series. The Giants and the Cubs were tied 1-1 in the bottom of the 9th inning, 2 outs. Merkle was on first. Our buddy Moose McCormick was the winning run. He's on third base, and Al Birdwell singles. McCormick crosses the plate with the apparent winning run, but Fred Merkle never bothered to touch second base. We've covered reasoning as to why he might not have, but that left a force play in play, I guess. And the Giants took advantage of that, recording the third out on a force, thusly negating the tying run, and the game was determined to have ended in a tie. Well, the season ended 2 weeks later, and the Cubs and the Giants were tied atop the table with a 98-55 record, so it was determined that the game was to be replayed on October 8th at the Polo Grounds. So it's 1908. It's New York and Chicago in a winner-take-all trip to the World Series to face the Tigers, so it's a pretty big deal. The New York Times put it pretty succinctly, I thought. They said, quote, "It's impossible to believe that the Earth is still on the same track as it was clinging to 24 hours ago," end quote. Big deal. I mean, it would be a big deal now, but I mean, you know, baseball was it in 1908.
Yeah.
Everybody fixated on baseball. So and have 2 big teams. This is incredible. So this is a hot ticket, obviously. There was no ESPN, no MLB.TV. You were either at the game or you were listening to it on the radio. Overnight before the game, so October 7th, that night watchmen at the Polo Grounds reported spending a good portion of the night rooting small boys out from under seats and from under the grandstand, as well as intercepting others trying to climb over the fences under the cover of darkness. So in my mind, I'm just seeing small boys dressed like the cast of Newsies, but they're like as dirty as like a chimney sweep, and they're just doing anything to get in the stadium for the game.
Straight out of Oliver.
Yeah,
that's right.
Probably speaking
Please,
with a
sir, can I have a
Cockney accent, governor? Please, just let me watch the game.
Please, sir, how about an aisle seat?
So the game is scheduled to start at 3. By 1 o'clock, there are 40,000 people already in the stands. The Giants had only averaged 11,000 fans per game the rest of the season. So this is just crazy. The stadium had to be sealed off, and officials were not letting any more fans into the park. But people are just desperate to get in there and see this. So they start to congregate on subway tracks, on the 155th Street Viaduct, and on Coogan's Bluff, which overlooked Coogan's Basin, where the Polo Grounds was actually located. They were even climbing onto the high-pitched roof of the grandstands. This is, I mean, they're just anywhere they can go to catch a glimpse of any part of the stadium. There are people there. This was also written in the New York Times. Quote, "They climbed 100-foot poles around the subway tracks. One man fell off a pole and died nearly instantly. Frank McBride, who was an enthusiastic follower of baseball, but his vacant place was quickly filled," end quote. So a dude climbs a 100-foot pole, falls, dies. Somebody else immediately replaces him just to see this game.
What do you think? What do you say to something like that? Well, I guess you're not going to be using it.
Yeah.
Your mind.
Well, it's available. So dibs.
His wife was with him, and she did not come down. She wanted to see that game.
No, she was the one that took his place. There were fights and reports of clubbing by the police. Some things, I guess, never change. Fans fighting each other just for the sake of fighting, because there were a lot of people there. One account likened the scene to the gladiatorial combat of the Roman Colosseum. These scuffles, though, were not just limited to the fans. Both teams were talking an enormous amount of smack to each other during batting practice. While the Cubs were still taking BP, the Giants reemerged from their dugout and stormed the field to take infield. Cubs skipper Frank Chance protested the move, but Giants pitcher Joe McKinney stepped on Chance's toes with his spikes and raised a bat toward him and spit. So
There'll be none of that.
he expectorated in his direction. Chance, reportedly, though, was not just an innocent victim. It's relayed that he told his players in the clubhouse to each pick out a Giant player and pick on them and, quote, call them every name in the book, end quote.
Nice.
Bowling was not the only alleged misdeed being perpetrated on this day. Joseph Creamer was the team doctor for the Giants and a personal friend of manager John McGraw. Creamer allegedly cornered Hall of Fame umpire Bill Clem, who was umping first base that day, underneath the bleachers before the game and offered him $2,500 to, quote, give all the close decisions to the Giants and make sure they win, end quote. So I looked it up. $2,500 in 1908 is worth about $71,000 today.
Wow.
There are reports that this money came from a well-known politician in New York, which I looked it up and I was expecting to see a Rockefeller or somebody. Couldn't come up with a name that I knew. So just, it's a well-known politician. I'll stick with that. There are other claims that this money actually came from pitcher Christy Matheson and John McGraw. So that would be huge news if, like, one of the best, if not the best pitcher in the game and his manager were trying to bribe an umpire before a win or go home game. Clem rejected this money. He said, not for me. I'm going to be a Hall of Fame umpire. He even appealed to have new umpires assigned to the game, but there were none available on that short notice. Creamer would later be banned for life from baseball, though it is a very well-known fact that he was just the fall guy for the bigger names involved in the attempted bribery. So, again, things never change.
Yes.
The game itself featured a pitching matchup of Christy Matheson for the hometown Giants versus Jack Feister for the Cubs. Feister was the same pitcher who avoided taking the loss in the original Merkle game, but he had fared very well against the Giants all season, despite pitching with extreme pain in his throwing arm. During the initial Merkle game, Feister threw only 3 curveballs because, unbeknownst to him, he had dislocated a tendon in his arm, in his pitching arm. He had dislocated a tendon, still pitching.
Oh, that's frightening.
Yeah. But on this day, he started the game, but only faced 5 batters, giving up a hit, walking 2 before he was lifted and replaced by Mordecai Three-Finger Brown, who pitched the rest of the game. Matheson took the loss as the Cubs prevailed 4-2. Following the game, the scene was just as you would have expected, a madhouse. Fans streamed onto the field, disappointment, anger, general civil disobedience, basically the sentiments of the day. Remember, also at the Polo Grounds, the clubhouses were in straightaway center field, which was like 4,000 feet from the dugouts. So as the Cubs ran towards center field, they were accosted by said Giants fans. Cubs starter Feister had a fan pull a knife on him.
Are you kidding me?
Manager Frank Chance was hit in the back of the neck with a glass bottle that was thrown at him with such force that it tore cartilage in his neck and did not allow him to speak above a whisper for some time.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a Philadelphia fan, this is pretty much still commonplace, but this is pretty rough.
This seems pretty brutal.
Yeah. So the Cubs would go on to face Ty Cobb and the Tigers in the World Series, winning their 2nd in a row, but their last, of course, until the curse of the Billy Goat was broken in 2016. Thought that was pretty interesting. Just what a madhouse that game must have been.
Completely crazy.
At my favorite stadium of all time, too. The one stadium I would choose to go to in its heyday, the Polo Grounds.
Very nice, man. That's crazy stuff. I mean, I don't know if anybody takes sports that seriously anymore. I mean, to pull a knife on a player, hey, you beat my team. Now I'm going to stab you. Well, let's all calm down a little bit.
Well,
Take it
remember,
down a
Monica
notch.
Seles was stabbed in the back in the middle of a tennis match. So I
remember that. I remember
crazies.
that. And most of them listen to the show. So
and
good to hear you guys.
They're all from Harvard. All right, so let's move on now. Let's get to our final segment of the day. It is a segment that we have thusly dubbed Wax Packs Heroes.
Gonna pull a Wax Pack Hero. Got stars in his eyes. Wax Hero. On the podcast tonight.
All right, Mark, I have got a pair of 1991 Fleer Ultra baseball cards here.
Ooh, Fleer Ultra. Very nice.
Yeah. So we are, now it's interesting here. There's a little like blowhole in the back of these. I don't think anybody could possibly do anything, but these are not wax packs. So I'm going to assume they have not been opened, but I am going to give you, as usual, a choice between the pack in my left hand and my right hand.
I did well with the right, so I'm going to go with the right again.
Okay. I'm going to let you go first. Just a reminder, our standings right now, Mark, you have 8 wins. I have 5. If you are new to this game, we've had, or if you've been around, we've had a little bit of a rule change here recently. We are scoring these based on WAR of the season that the cards are from. So this will take into account each player's baseball reference WAR for the 1991 season. We do add some extra sauce on if you meet certain requirements. If you are wearing glasses of any sort, we'll give you an extra 1/10 of a win above replacement. If you are wearing a mustache, you're going to get an extra 1/10. If you are, if you could be mistaken for Tom Selleck in the dark, that kind of mustache, you get an extra 2/10 of a WAR for that. If you are wearing real stirrups that we can see, you're going to get an extra 1/10 of a WAR. If you're wearing 2-in-1s though, that means you are actually below average, and we're going to take away a 1/10 of a point of WAR. If you are wearing sweatbands with your caricature, with your jersey number or a McDonald's logo on it, you're going to get an extra 1/10 of a point of WAR. And if you are wearing high top shoes, and along with that, if we can see your 2-in-1 stirrups, we're going to minus 2/10 of a WAR, because that's awful, and that brings the morale down. And
that's right.
Then finally, if you are a Hall of Famer, we're going to give you a whole extra point of WAR. That's a whole extra game if you are a Hall of Famer.
That's a lot of WAR.
Yeah. So, all right, let's jump right into it. Mark, let's open your pack. These are very well sealed. Wow.
I hope it's a fortune, Clark.
Is that a vacation reference? Because you called me Clark?
Christmas Vacation.
Okay.
Trying to be timely.
Never seen that movie, so.
Ouch.
Yeah. All right, so you get a sticker here. This is a nice sticker. It's an old Expo sticker.
Yes.
So that's good.
Oh, nice.
All right, your first player is a pitcher for the Astros, so you probably are pretty familiar with Andujar Cedeno.
Oh, sure. I believe he was a hard-throwing guy, but I don't remember a whole lot about that. I think he was a starter.
Well, actually,
no. He was an infielder, wasn't he?
Andujar Cedeno is a shortstop.
I was thinking of someone else entirely. Yes, Andujar Cedeno. I caught myself, so I can't be courted.
I was going to make
you can't
sure.
Court me.
I was going to let you know.
Yeah.
So he did not have a great season in '91. This was only his second year in the big leagues. He had a minus 0.5. So
that's not good.
Yeah, you're going to start out in the negative there. Nothing on this card though that's going to get you any extra money. It's nice on the back. They've got another full headshot, and then they've got 2 full-length body shots of him. Here he is swinging a bat, where you can see he's wearing 2-in-1 stirrups, but we don't count anything on the back of the card. So
that would be we'd have to get licensed for a whole different game if we counted stuff on the back of the card.
Well, I think our friends over at Baseball Bang Average would probably have an issue if we started looking on the back of the card. So we won't do that.
So we don't want to cause any problems.
No. Next, you've got outfielder for the Blue Jays. His nickname was Spider-Man because he was deathly afraid of spiders. And he is also thought to have hit the longest home run at Wrigley Field, I learned this last week. It's Glenn Allen Hill.
Really? Ah, yes. Glenn Allen Hill had a lot of pop. I mean, that guy swung a bat really hard.
Yeah, and we've talked about him several times. He was on the 2000 World Series team with the New York Yankees. He also hurt himself while dreaming about spiders and jumped off the sofa and crashed through a plate glass coffee table.
Oops.
And I know he's been managing in the minors recently, but this card, he is definitely wearing 2-in-1 stirrups. So that's going to be a minus 1/10 of a WAR. And in 1991, his WAR was a minus 0.2. So you're going the wrong way here. You're at minus 0.8 so far. Next
I'm cruising. We're getting those out of the way, man.
Next is pitcher for the Yankees, Lee Guterman.
Lee Guterman was a Mariner for a little while too. Lefty reliever.
Correct.
Okay.
I spelled his name Gutterman, which that is not correct. It is actually Lee Guterman. In 1991, he went 3-4 with the Yankees. He came up with Seattle, and he ended his career with Seattle.
Okay.
In 1991, his WAR was a 0.9, and he has got some real nice real stirrups, and he's got a mustache. So that is worth 1.1 WAR. So that'll actually bring you out of the hole and get you in the positive to 0.3.
Yes.
Next, we've got an outfielder for the San Diego Padres. It is Mr. Thomas Howard.
Thomas Howard. Not familiar, or at least I'm drawing a blank.
He played 10 years in the big leagues, mainly with the Reds. You probably would remember him in those like sleeveless Reds uniforms. In 1991, just his second year in the big leagues, though, he came up with the Padres. And that year, he had a WAR of 1.8. Not bad. He slashed 249, 309, and 356. I
can't recall anything about him, and he goes and scores me a point like that. How about that?
Yeah, that's some strangely low numbers to have a WAR that healthy. I can't tell if he's got a mustache. Yep, he's got a mustache, and but he's wearing 2-in-1 stirrups, so that's a wash there on those. But what did I say? 1.8 WAR. So that'll bring you up to 2.1. All right, so next is a friend of a former guest. He was traded with a former guest, Don August's buddy, Mark Knudsen, pitcher for the Brewers.
Yep, Don talked a little bit about him.
Mark Knudsen is wearing 2-in-1s, I hate to tell you, but he's got a mustache, so that'll be a wash. In 1991, it was his final season in the big leagues, and he had a minus 0.9 WAR.
So far, this is a pack of superstars, let me tell you.
Well, This drives me crazy how this happens, because your next player is a Hall of Famer.
Oh, nice.
I am disturbed to tell you. Nope, he's wearing real stirrups. Okay, good. I was going to be very upset. He's wearing some lime green batting gloves.
Right on.
Yeah, so I think you can guess who this is and why I'm so upset.
Did he steal a lot of bases, this guy?
He's been known to pilfer some bases, yes.
I'm going to guess Dave Henderson. No, wait, Ricky Henderson.
How every time do we pull each other's favorite players? Never
I know,
once
all
do
the time.
I've never pulled a Ricky, and I don't think you've ever pulled a Nolan. It's disgusting.
No, I don't think I have.
It's disgusting.
If I ever do, I want you to buy me a bulldozer.
So remember, in 1990, Ricky was MVP. This is 1991. In 1990, he had a 9.9 WAR, which was tied for his highest. He also had a 9.9 in 1985 when he, I think, should have won the MVP. But Donald Mattingly did that year. But he did manage to score a 4.6 WAR in this season. Yeah. You think? So you were at 1.2. You get a 4.6, and then you get an extra 0.1 for being a Hall of Famer. He is clean shaven in this picture. He always had a wispy mustache, but he is clean shaven here. But he does have real stirrups, so you're going to get an extra 0.1 as well, and that'll bring you up to 6.9. Screw you for getting Ricky Henderson. All right, next pitcher for the Rangers, Scott Champarino.
Champarino was in the A's organization for a bit.
Let's see. He was drafted by the A's in '87. Never played for him in the big leagues. He only spent 3 years in the big leagues and was with the Rangers. He was the player to be named later when the A's traded for Harold Baines in 1990 at the deadline. Very interesting.
Okay.
Also was represented by Scott Boras. So he must have thought pretty highly of him. WAR, though, only a .3. Didn't play a whole lot.
Well, I know it. I'm not going to complain about any positive movement whatsoever. Even .3 is good.
Next, you got outfielder for the Blue Jays. We talked about him earlier. He hit a walk-off home run in the final game of a World Series as well. It is Joe Carter.
Joe Carter, one of the biggest bats of that era. Whether it was for the Padres or Blue Jays, that
Cleveland.
guy, man, if that guy got a hold of a ball, he crushed it.
Also spent a little bit of time with Baltimore and the Giants.
There you go.
He only spent 1 year at San Diego. I thought he was there a little bit longer than that. But
yeah, me too. Interesting.
He had, you're right. He was in 20 plus home runs for 15 years straight, ended up with 396. In 1991, he was fifth in the MVP balloting and had a 4.7 WAR.
Wow.
Now, he does have a mustache in this picture, but he also has 2-1s. So that'll bring you up to 11.6 on your WAR your WAR scale factor, whatever. Next, we have got closer for the Chicago White Sox. I despise this guy because he, as I've mentioned, hit Terry Steinbach in the head every single year. It's Bobby Thigpen, closer for the White Sox.
Bobby Thigpen, he closed for a while, didn't he? I mean, he was. I remember him being really good.
Wow, he only pitched for 9 years. Remember, in 1990 was his big year where he set the record at the time for 57 saves in the season.
Yeah, he was, when he was on, he was on.
So after that, he closed 50, he saved 57 in 90. Then in 91, it went to 30 and then 22 and then 1-1-0-0 and out of the game at age 30.
Huh.
So yeah, he really flamed out, didn't he?
Man, I guess.
Only a .1 WAR for this season, but he does have real stirrups on. So you're going to get a .2 out of that. That'll bring you to 11.8. You got your second Hall of Famer.
Yes, there we go.
Very familiar with this guy. I think you even actually pulled him last week. I said he's probably one of your top 3 Hall of Famers. Designated hitter for the Seattle Mariners. It's Gar.
Yes. Edgar Martinez. Hasta caliente. Gotta love it.
Gar, or he was nicknamed Poppy as well, apparently. I think most Latin players are called Poppy at some point. In there.
Yeah, at one point or another, yeah.
Let's see. In 1991, he had a good year. Didn't place in the MVP balloting at anywhere, but he had a 6.1 WAR.
Hey, right on.
Yeah, you can take that all day. He is a Hall of Famer, so you get an extra point or 1 point there. He is wearing 2-1s, unfortunately, but he does have a mustache to cancel that out. So you are now at 18.9. You've got back-to-back Hall of Famers.
Woo, yeah.
Next, you've got somebody that is also given off a very famous World Series walk-off. It's my boy Dennis Eckersley.
Ah, yes. One of the great closers of all time.
Great closers, also has a no-hitter to his name as a starter.
He does. For the Cubs, I believe.
I thought it was with Cleveland. It was when he threw the no-hitter. I could be wrong there. He only pitched for the Cubs for 3 years. He only pitched for Cleveland for 3 years, too. But I thought he was with Cleveland when he threw the no-hitter because I thought he threw it to Ray Fosse. But I could be completely off base. I'm sure someone will hear us and tell us about it. And if not, we'll bring it up next week. But Dennis Eckersley pitched for 24 years. That is a long time.
Wow.
1991, the A's were still pretty good. He ended up with a 1.5 ERA. Or a WAR, I'm sorry. A 1.5 ERA would be great. He is a Hall of Famer, so you get an extra 0.1. And he's got a mustache, as you can imagine, and he's also wearing real stirrups. So that'll get you 0.2. WAR, that'll bring you up to 21.6. Next, you've got a guy that was also a member of the Athletics, but not a Hall of Famer. It is here with the Tigers infielder Tony Phillips.
Tony Phillips could play anywhere you put him, man, and play well.
Absolutely. He was a Swiss
Army
knife.
Dude, but he was a dynamo too. He was always ready to rumble. Just a dynamo of a player.
I'm looking at his positions by years here in Baseball Reference, and 1988, 5-4-7, DH 6-8-3-9.
Wow. Wow.
And I mean, it's like that every year. I mean, he could play everywhere.
He was one of the best.
Yeah, 1991, good year, 5.2 WAR.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah, that is incredibly high. He's got a mustache and he's got real stirrups too. So you'll get a 0.2 out of that as well. Next pitcher for the lefty for the Cleveland team, it is Greg Swindell.
Greg Swindell is another just solid pitcher. They give you 200 innings a year and get out there, and he, threw some pretty darn impressive games over the course of his career.
1991, not a good year for him. 9-16. Okay. But yeah, you're right. Every year, just about over 200 or really close to 200 innings pitched. So one of those workhorse guys. With that, still though, a 3.8 ERA.
Wow.
Also a member of the USA Olympic team. So congrats there. I am having a hard time. I think those are 2-1s because they are pretty snug. It's kind of hard to tell, but I am going to have to take a 0.1 off of that. Your last card is a checklist card, so that helps me out.
Oh,
but
great.
You finished with a 30.7 ERA, 30.7 WAR.
I could take that. I'd take that any day.
Yeah, that is not bad. That is going to get you a Hall of Fame consideration, probably. I don't know if it'll get you in.
I hope so.
Let's open up my pack here and see. You had 3 Hall of Famers there, including Ricky Henderson. So
it's tough to beat 3 Hall of Fame pack, but you never know, man.
It's gonna be hard to beat. Day. Yeah. So I start off with a Mets sticker. It's okay. It's the old logo with the city in the background. I am going to start off though with a Hall of Famer. So that's good. Right. You started off negative your first 2. This is a guy we pulled last week. I told you about his prowess as a hockey player as well. It's Tom Glavine.
Yes, I remember that.
So
Tom, I heard it through the Glavine.
Oh, so Tom Glavine, if you remember, in 1991 won the Cy Young Award. So that means I'm going to be starting off looking pretty good here. That equates to a 8.5 WAR.
Goodness. It's like a quarter of mine already.
Plus, he's a Hall of Famer. And he is wearing some real stirrups here. So,
of course he is. He's the perfect ball player.
Gets me 9.6 WAR on my first card.
Come on.
He went 20-11 that year and had 9 complete games. Not bad.
Oh my.
Okay, next is a guy. I quiz you on his nickname, and I think last time you remembered it. And it's not Lance Johnson. It's the Governor.
You mean Jerry Brown?
There you go. Very nice. Bringing back that California politics. The Governor. He's not as useful as Tony Phillips, but there are a couple of seasons here where he played in just about every position. Also led the league in 92 with 16 sacrifice bunts. That's some good. Wow. For 4 years in a row, he had double figures in bunts, which is really not that exciting, but my God, that's helpful when you got a guy that you know you can get up there and bunt.
Absolutely.
91, not a great year for the Governor. Minus 1.3.
Oh. That'll help me out.
No, not really nice. He's got a mustache and he's got 2-1, so those will cancel out. Next, we've got noted drunk driving expert Mark Grace for the Chicago Cubs.
Well, Mark Grace was a solid first baseman, had a little bit of power, could hit 300. He was a good ball player for that era.
He was. Didn't wear batting gloves as well, so he gets props for that. Looking at his nicknames, I've heard Amazing. And I've heard Gracie. I have not heard his third nickname, Little Hurt.
Okay.
Pretty funny.
I don't know if I'd want to be called Little Hurt.
I'm assuming it's in reference to the first baseman on the other side of the city, the Big Hurt.
I get that, but I still don't know if I'd want to be called Little Hurt.
Well, I mean, everybody's little compared to Frank Thomas, so...
Yeah,
I can see
that's
that.
That's a good point, but they don't have to advertise it.
So Mark Grace is not... no, he's got real stirrups on there. So that'll get me 0.1 extra. So I'm at 10.5. Next, we've had this guy recently because we made reference to his nickname being Devo. It's Mike Devereaux, outfielder for the Baltimore Orioles.
Mike Devereaux played a little while.
Mike Devereaux, we've talked about him recently in 1991, had a pretty good year, a 4.9 WAR. I'll take that.
Wow. I wouldn't have expected that.
I would have never guessed Mike Devereaux would have had a 4.9 WAR at any point in his career.
No, me neither.
He's got a mustache, but he's also wearing 2-1, so those wash out. Next, we have got a Rookie of the Year from the Cincinnati Reds, and his nickname was Spuds.
Was that
And he's wearing sport goggles. I'll give you that.
He's got the goggles.
Yeah.
Okay, that's definitely. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank on him. The guy.
Oh no, he's probably got some Super Balls in his bat too.
Yes, I know.
It's Chris Sabo.
Sabo, that's it. I was totally drawing a blank. He's another guy who liked to argue with the umpires.
I'll give it to him though. When his bat bursts and the Super Balls came out, he knew he was caught, whether he meant to do it or not, and he just walked out of the dugout and just took his lumps.
Yes.
91, not a bad year. He was an all-star and finished with a WAR of 5.0. I'll take that.
Wow.
He is also wearing sports specs, so I'm going to get extra points for that. But he is also wearing 2-1, so that kind of washes that out.
Yeah.
All right, next. Boy, we had all these players last week. This is a completely different manufacturer. But next up is outfielder for the Red Sox, Tom Brunansky.
Brunansky, yeah. In fact, I mentioned I used to platoon him with Darryl Strawberry at Stratomatic.
Let's see. Last week we were doing 92. This is 91. In 91, he had a minus 0.3 WAR. So
wow,
not cool, Bruno. He is wearing some real stirrups though. So that'll help a little bit. That puts me at 20.2. Next, we've got not Pedro Martinez, but his brother, Ramon Martinez. With the Dodgers.
I had a buddy that used to call him Raymond Martinez.
So there were two Ramon Martinez that overlapped in the late 1990s.
Yes, there was like a Ramon P. Martinez or something.
This, though, is the brother of Pedro, cousin of Denny Bautista. I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
In the 1991 season, he pitched well enough to get a 3.7 WAR.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm wondering if these WARs have been adjusted because this was the steroid era, so that they're giving them some additional WAR for who they faced. He's got real mustache. He's got a real mustache. He's got a mustache and real stirrups, so that'll get me an additional 0.2.
You think we should add, like, if somebody's got a fake mustache, you get points?
No, I think you minus.
You're not going to see it very often.
If you've got a fake mustache, we're going to take money WAR away. Man. All right. I have got another Hall of Famer, my second Hall of Famer. And this is one of my favorites. It's Dave Winfield with the Angels here.
The legendary Dave Winfield. You know what? I went to Benaroya Hall once. They were doing a baseball, like an orchestral baseball show. And they brought out Dave Winfield to read Casey at the bat. It was pretty awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I looked up and I'm like, that's Dave Winfield.
So this was near the end of his career. He was 39 at this point. He only managed a 0.5 WAR. He is a Hall of Famer though, so I'll get a full WAR for that. He's got a mustache and he's got real stirrups as well. So that will bring me up to 25.8.
It's getting too close.
Just a reminder, you were at 30.7. So I'm getting there. Next, this guy, we've talked about him because his mom played in the Women's Professional Baseball League during World War II. It's Casey Candell.
Oh, yeah. Casey, was he with the Astros?
At this point, yep.
Yeah, and kind of a utility guy.
Yeah, now I'm wondering, is he the only big league player that had a mother that played in the Women's Professional League? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Try and look that up. Not a bad year, 1.9 WAR in 1991 for Casey. Had a career high 4 home runs that year. Not much of the power for Casey.
But he had 4.
Yeah. Let's see. I said 1.9, and he definitely has real stirrups on. So that's going to get me a even 2, bringing me up to 27.8. Next pitcher for the Dodgers. This was taken in Wrigley during the summer because there's a bunch of ivy behind him. It's Tim Belcher.
Tim Belcher, he was with Oakland, then the Dodgers, I think.
Let's see. Who did he come up with? Tim Belcher came up with the Dodgers. Actually did not play. He played for the Mariners for 1 year, did not play for the A's, at least not in the big leagues.
Okay.
In 1991, his WAR was 4.3. I'll take that all day.
Wow.
He does have 2-1s on though, so that is going to only be a 4.2, and that is going to vault me into the lead with a 32 even WAR with 4 cards left. So as long as they're not negatives, which I can tell you they're not going to be. Next, it is still listed as catcher here for the Brewers. It's BJ Surhoff.
Uh-huh. Great Brewer, left-handed hitter, did play catcher, and then I think third base.
He actually went to the, yeah, you're right. He played third base, and then he ended up his career in left field and right field. Moved to the outfield most of the time.
Yeah.
1991 was his fourth year in the big leagues. Looked like he had a pretty good year. Let's see, a WAR of 1.6. He has got 2-1s on though, so that's only going to bring me up to a 1.5. But just as long as I'm staying in the positive here, I'm gonna head for a victory. Next, we've talked about this guy before. Here he is with the Reds. It is pitcher Jose Rijo.
One of my favorites.
Also a former Athletic. Jose Rijo in 1991. Wow, pretty good year. 15-6, led the league in win percentage, and at a WHIP of 1.077 for a starter.
Man.
That's a good number.
That's difficult to get.
Ended up with a 5.5 WAR, but he's got 2-1s on, so that'll only get me 5.4. But I think it's over. I think the bus is warmed and the fat lady is singing. I got two cards left.
I'm in trouble.
This one is a pitcher for the Royals, Mark Gubicza.
Mark Gubicza was another. The Royals had some pretty decent starters.
Yeah, they really did.
You know,
they had nothing else. They had Bo Jackson for a while. Like that was it.
Yeah.
Starters and Bo and Willie Wilson and Kevin Seitzer. Well, I get okay. Now I know what I'm going to get. They had George Pratt. Let's say that.
Right. We're being obvious here. That's Kevin Seitzer, by the way.
And was Daryl Porter still behind that? I know he's with the Cubs or with the Cardinals and the Royals, I think. 1991 for Goobs was not a great year. Minus 0.4. He does have
he's trying to help me out.
He's got real stirrups on though, so that's only going to be a minus 0.3. He has got some hair going on coming out of that hat though. I mean, that is beautiful. Not aerodynamic, but it looks good. And then my final card is outfielder for the Cubs. It is one Mr. Jerome Walton.
Jerome Walton did he win Rookie of the Year that year?
He won Rookie of the Year in 1989. Didn't his, who was second? I think it was his, Dwight Smith. That's right. His teammate came in second. Let's see what he did in 1991. Did not have a great year with the stick. He slashed 219, 275, and 330.
Ouch.
How do you even stay in the lineup when you're only getting your on base percentage is 275 and your slugging is 330?
That's terrible.
You might win. Let's see what his WAR was.
Minus 11.
No, he still had a positive WAR. He still had a 1.3 WAR.
Weird.
Yeah, that is strange. He's got real stirrups and he's got a mustache as well. Doesn't really matter. It bumps me up to 40.1 in the WAR department though, and gives me the win. That'll be my 6th win. I'm back to within 2. You've got 8 wins. I've got 6. So
yeah, well, I don't like losing. I don't like losing ground, but you played well.
Yeah, but you got a Ricky Henderson card, so that makes it a little hard for me to swallow.
They could be an auto win though, automatic. Yeah. But we haven't. We might
need
yet,
we might need to think of some rules if you get a Ricky or a Nolan.
Because the one thing we don't have is enough rules.
Yeah, I know. We get Manfred on the line. We need more rules.
The pace of Wax Pack Hero play.
Yeah, it takes 5 minutes to get through the rules. But anyway, let's start to wrap up the show. We want to thank all our listeners as usual. We really do appreciate it. We've gotten a lot of interaction on social media recently. We've gotten some retweets, which we really appreciate, and a lot of. I'm having a great time on social media on our show account because there's no politics. It's just baseball essentially, and it's a lot of fun. So we can be found on both Twitter and Instagram at 2 Strike Noise. That is at TWO Strike Noise. We also appreciate you telling friends about us. We've had a pretty big bump here in the last month or so, and we really do appreciate it. Mark, people can also get a hold of us via the email if you want to tell them how to do that.
Yeah, you want to talk to us via electronic mail, send something, probably another old piece of electronic mail, to 2 Strike Noise, spell it out, TWO, strike noise @gmail.com.
All right, so I want to thank you again. Hope everybody is staying safe. I'm locked down again, so I can't really go anywhere. Mark, you're probably getting close to another one as well. But everybody, please stay safe. Hopefully everybody can stay in small groups here for Ricky Henderson's birthday. And we will see you one more time before that big day. But everybody stay safe, and we will see you next week on another episode of Two Strike Noise.
Thank you. God bless you. Have a great day.